Cory, Brada from the Hawkeye of the Storm and Iowa postgame with Coach Gary Close. We are here recapping Iowa's 92-71 victory over the Leathernecks of Western Illinois, and I am joined by none other than Coach Gary Close, who was at the game tonight. And Gary, another routine victory. I know we've talked about the schedule. We're finally through the non-conference slate. How did you think Iowa performed to finish things off?
I thought they did a real nice job, Cory. I think Western Illinois is a pretty good basketball team, and especially in the first half, they really made them not look very good. I'll be curious myself. I'll follow them, see what they do in their league. But I think they're going to win a lot of games in their league, and Iowa took it to them. I thought it was a real nice win, especially with coming off the break, and gives them a little momentum going into the Big Ten season.
Absolutely. And we've been talking about the need for bigger crowds. I don't know that we saw that tonight. What was the crowd like? I know the students are still on break.
Oh, it was a great crowd. There was the biggest crowd I've seen, and it was, and they were into the game. It was a real nice crowd. In fact, it was filled all the way to the top in most of the section. Now there were some spots that are empty, but it was a real. I wasn't sure what they would draw. Middle of the week students not here, but in a snowstorm. But I thought it was a nice crowd.
So what was the weather like? I'm curious because here in Ames, we got a skiff of snow early, but I know most of that snow moved off into eastern Iowa. So was that a factor for people traveling to the game?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. It was snowing. We got here about an hour before the game, but it was snowing then, and some people in front of us said that it was tough getting in. So that was a factor, I think. So all in all, it was like I said, it was a real nice crowd. I thought they were into it.
And to support what the narrative about Western Illinois that you brought up at the outset, Gary, this is a team that we keep talking about. They did beat Nebraska, nearly knocked off DePaul. And I thought Iowa's defense was good. They out-rebounded. Early on, there were a few offensive boards that were kind of frustrating to see Iowa give up. But overall, they end up out-rebounding Western Illinois. Let me grab that number here. I believe they out-rebounded them by 10. Yeah, 41-31. Mm-hmm. And again, I know you have to understand it's a different level of competition, but they've certainly improved in that area of the game.
I think so. And I think their length bothered Western Illinois. I don't think there's any doubt, both in the rebounding aspect as well as scoring around the basket. I don't know how many block shots Iowa had, but they had a bunch, and they had a lot of them that were altered that had a lot to do with their shooting percentage. This was a team, and Western Illinois had averaged almost 11 threes a game and shooting about 38% as a team. And I think their halftime, they were like 2 for 19 from three. Now, they probably would say they had some looks that they should have made, but they didn't. And it's a team that does shoot it well from three. So I think that was a telling stat coming in that they did a pretty good job of continuing from the three-point line.
I was really impressed with Peyton Sanford, and you wonder sometimes this late in the non-conference slate, who does this benefit? Who does a game like this benefit? Because we didn't see Josh Agundale. He was out with injury, but I thought this was a good opportunity for Peyton to get some more confidence. He went 3 of 3 overall from three. What did you see out of him? I thought his activity level was just really good.
Yeah. I think you're spot on. He's very active. He got some offensive rebounds. He hit some threes, as you said, and did gave him some energy off the bench, which is what you just never know in a game who can do something like that. And boy, it's nice if you can put somebody in, give you a little charge, and maybe he might be that type of player going into the Big Ten season.
And Keegan, again, the efficiency we continue to see out of him, 29 points, 13 of 20 from the field with 10 boards. I know we basically came to this conclusion with the Southeastern Louisiana game last week, but it doesn't seem like he's got any lingering ankle issues. On the other hand, Connor McCaffrey goes down tonight. I don't know where you were in the arena, Gary, but he did come back to the sideline without a boot and without any crutches. So I would say that's probably a good sign.
Yeah, I would say so too. And they got a few days to heal him up. Hopefully it's not too bad. Keegan was terrific. He almost had a double-double at half.
Yeah.
He's he's flying up the draft boards, and it's understandable.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Gary. Well, I don't want to keep you. One final thing, and this is kind of a look ahead to Maryland, because, of course, I know you've got a trek back, and you're dealing with some weather there in Iowa City. But as far as the Maryland game is concerned, we pick up Big Ten action Monday. And, I kind of wonder what that crowd will be like. I hope that it's a packed house. Football will officially be over. I believe students will be back. Am I correct in saying that, Gary?
Well, you got me. I haven't gotten my orientation yet, so I'm not in class, so I don't know.
All right.
I think it's got to be close.
Yeah, they got to be close. So Maryland, of course, we know the storylines with them. They've lost Mark Turgeon, their head coach. There was something going on there, but they seem to have recovered. They knocked off Florida, and they've still got talent on that roster. But this is a home game. This is, to me, I don't want to call it a must-win in early January, but might be as close as you can come to. You don't want to start 0-3 with 2 losses at home in the Big Ten. So how does Iowa get it done against the Terrapins Monday?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's a huge game for them, especially because they got to go back on the road, playing a Kohl Center, which is not an easy place to play. So, Maryland was in the top 25 at one time, and who knows how much the coaching situation leading up to it affected how they play. They do, as you said, they do have some talent, and people thought that, ranking them where they ranked them. So I would say they're probably very dangerous. It seems like they're playing a little bit better. Sometimes that happens with a coaching change, and they get a new lease on life. And so I think it's a huge game for Iowa because, as you said, they don't want to go 0-3. League's too tough. They need to get as many home wins as they can get.
Well, Gary, we appreciate the effort to jump on with us and give us a brief recap from your vantage point there in Carver. And we'll look forward to the resumption of Big Ten play on Monday. Travel safe back to Wisconsin, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay. Appreciate it, Cory. Happy New Year, everybody.
Thanks, Gary. Take care.
Take care.
Always appreciate hearing from Coach Close. Always a pleasure to get his insight. And very, very optimistic, very positive Coach Close this evening, and rightfully so, as Iowa, again, with the 92-71 victory over the Leathernecks of Western Illinois. Our caller line is open. If you want to give us a call, 515-635-1601, 515-635-1601. If you want to talk hoops, we can also throw in a football question or two, whatever you are comfortable talking about. And it's good to see a few in our chat here. Hawkeye Howard, good to hear you from you tonight, buddy. And hopefully you've avoided, I understand there's more storms going on across the country. It's incredible what we've had here in the month of December as far as weather. But hopefully you guys are staying safe down south. The real Hayden, he says, I told Connor to get freaky in the first half. He tweaked his ankle in the second half. That is not what I meant by freaky Connor. Absolutely. And oatmeal for life. And by the way, I think Connor is going to be okay. Again, I mentioned that over the phone with Gary. He came back, didn't have crutches, didn't have a big brace. I think he had a brace on his ankle, but again, no crutches and no boot. That's a good sign because he did come down. It was a nasty looking, I don't know, I'm assuming the real Hayden, you were at the game, but he came down. They showed it on replay. It was a nasty little incident. It couldn't tell at first whether it was his ankle certainly turned, but whether it was his ankle or his knee that was hurting. And I'm guessing it was the ankle. Because, again, if it was his knee, you'd think he'd either have not come back or he'd come back with crutches. Oatmeal for life. Did Ogundele or Mulvey play? Well, Ogundele did not. Ogundele's dealing with an ankle sprain, and that's a lot of weight to come down on an ankle. And that was, last week. According to Fran did talk to the media on Tuesday. He's sounding optimistic that he can be back next week. I don't know Maryland's roster. I'll have to study their roster. I've watched them play, but as far as a true big man, they're not Purdue, they're not Illinois. So I don't know that they're going to, even think about the Illinois game. They really didn't use Ogundele as much as maybe you'd think they would. And maybe that's a regret of Fran, but they're going to need him at some point. I keep saying that at some point they're going to need him because again, what happens if Keegan goes down again and then, Connor's out? That's 2 less guys in your rotation. So just numbers, from a sheer numbers standpoint, you're going to need one of those big men. It was good to see Riley get in there. But again, Riley gets in there really late because Iowa didn't really pull away until late. I mean, it was a 13-point game sort of late in the second half. So, this is a good, as Gary said, this is a good Western Illinois team. It's not a great team. It's a good team. They knocked off Nebraska, nearly knocked off DePaul. So that's a good team they beat tonight. But certainly I think everybody's ready to see this team against better competition each and every night. Completely agree with you, Eric, on this one. Sanford, the bench player of the game. I think he's a player of the game. Now, you could say it was Keegan. I understand that. He made double-double. He was dominant, 29 points. But the energy level, the activity level of Peyton Sanford, we saw him crashing the glass. We saw him in transition on a dunk. He seems to be getting more comfortable banging inside, getting rebounds. He's got good length. He's 6'8", 6'7", 6'8". So his size and his ability to shoot is going to get him on the court. But when he's out there, he's going to have to help them rebounding the basketball. And he might be sort of that dark horse because, again, this team, the one struggle we've seen out of this team is the inability at times to rebound the basketball. They've been good here these last 3 games. Again, albeit against inferior competition. I think Utah State, that's a good team. And again, this is a good team. But we're talking a different level of rebounding prowess once we get into Big Ten play. So they're going to need a guy like Sanford to step up and rebound the ball. Tony Perkins, another example of a guy who's long. He's not real tall. He's long. He's athletic. They're going to need their guards to crash the glass as well. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Hayden, but this town is pronounced Wapello, not Wapello. Okay? So I know I kind of went on a rant yesterday with Mark Rogers about some football commentators we've been listening to on ESPN, but I heard the BTN Plus play-by-play guy call this town Wapello, and I'm thinking to myself, and then I heard somebody called someone by the wrong name. I'm trying to think of who that was. But it is frustrating when it seems like, now I don't know what happened tonight. I know according to the university's release yesterday, as far as the game notes for tonight, Jess Settles was supposed to be on the call, and it was the girl from Northwestern. So I don't know what happened to Jess. Maybe something come up. Hopefully he's okay. No reason to think he's not. But that was sort of I feel sorry for her because I think she was probably thrown in there late, and she, made some mistakes as you're going to. But hey, at least the BTN Plus stream worked. And now, if you're an Iowa basketball fan, you can get rid of it unless you want to keep it for some of the women's games. But those games are getting canceled. Heck, how many games now have we had canceled for the Iowa women's basketball team? It's unfortunate. But I will be getting rid of BTN Plus now that the men are done on that network. Ray, yes, it's Wapello. I had some friends in Wapello at one time, and I heard that, and I just kind of shook my head. So that's okay. Again, at least, it used to be worse. Back when back when it was the Student U, and again, I understand students are learning how to broadcast, and, they're probably, interns. But back when it was the BTN Student U, and you just had students commentating, they didn't have any idea what they were doing. So these guys, you maybe call them amateurs. They at least know what they're doing. And the girl was the color girl, she was extremely knowledgeable about basketball. But again, you're being thrown into a situation, and if you don't even know how to pronounce, Rabracha, that's what she said. She said Rabraca. It's Rabracha. So I'm nitpicking, of course. I'll be honest, I have a hard time this late in the season, and maybe some other people will disagree with me. I have a hard time staying engaged from beginning to end in, a game like this. And again, it's a better Western Illinois team, but my goodness, this team is 10-3. All right. And 9 of those 10 wins have come against teams. Well, 8 of those 10 wins have come against teams that are just okay. Some of them bad. Some of them, quite frankly, bad. And Virginia and Utah are good, not great. Neither one of those teams are great. They've played several teams that I think have the potential of being great: Purdue, Illinois, and Iowa State, and they've lost to every one of them. So I have a hard time sometimes staying engaged in a game like this. So I'm just happy that we're through it. And now, once the bowl game is complete on Saturday, we can focus our attention on Iowa basketball. It'll be Big Ten hoops exclusively, and an opportunity for Iowa to start building this resume over the course of 2.5 months. The real Hayden says, I don't think students will be back for a couple of weeks. If that's the case, and I don't know that, all right? I don't know that. But if that's the case, Hayden, I don't know what to say. First of all, students aren't showing up to these games anyways. They weren't showing up in November, all right? And I know we've talked extensively on this show about my issues with, and I think a lot of people's issues with, how the university treats students. I believe that Iowa, first of all, doesn't put students in a position to want to come to games. All right. First of all, you're charging students to sit in the the vertical sections behind the backboard, right? all the way up to the top concourse area, that's not going to encourage a student to pay to come to a game in Carver. Okay. You look at what Purdue does, Michigan State, Iowa State, these teams. Now, Iowa State can kind of get away with it a little bit more. They're right on top of you. But Carver, you're not going to be able to do that. I've said this for a long time, and I know a lot of other Iowa people agree with this. You got to start lining these students up around the court. They've got to have incentive. And if you're not going to do that, at least let them in for free. And if you're concerned about lost revenue, believe me, having students at the game, even if you're taking a loss on tickets, students, however much I don't know if they pay more than $5, $10, right? Maybe it's more than that. But even if you're taking a hit, $5 to $10 a ticket, and if you get a packed house of students, that's going to encourage families and people who maybe would stay at home to come to more games. That's just a fact. That's just how things work, right? And it's too bad. I got a friend who was at the game tonight, and he called me before the game and let me know he was going, and he had never been to Carver. He had never been to Hilton until a couple of weeks ago. I took him to Iowa State, Iowa, and even he admitted, and he's a big Iowa fan, but he had never been to Carver before. And he admitted that Hilton has got energy, and right now, at least right now, Carver does not. Now, there are times when Carver's rocking. I hope that when these students get back in there, whenever that may be, that they come out in full. I don't expect it, because honestly, even last year, or not last year, the year before that, of course, when we had fans, that was a good team. That was a really good team. It wasn't a great team. It was a really good team, right? I don't know what they would have been seeded in the tournament. I don't remember. Maybe a 6 or a 7, somewhere in there. Maybe a 5. But, there were games where fans showed up, and then there were games where really fans didn't. All right. And if you're not getting more than 12, 13,000 for conference games, to me, that's a failure from an administration standpoint. So hopefully they'll prove me wrong. But again, I don't blame the students in that. They're already paying thousands of dollars in tuition. Give them some reason to come to games. And from everything I've heard, I haven't been to Carver yet this year, but everything I hear, ice cream lines a mile long. They've got very few vendors open. It's just Carver's built in a way where you're going to have to create incentives some other way. So I'll stop talking about that for the time being. Again, I know we've talked about that in the past. The real Hayden, did anyone see the end of the ISU game? I'll be honest. I was watching. I had the BTN Plus Iowa game on one screen, and I had the Iowa State football game on another screen. And I know most people who are listening to this probably know what happened in the Iowa State game, but Iowa State was down by 3 scores. They climbed back into it, get the ball back with 2 minutes to go. All right. Just a little under 2 minutes to go. It's 4th down and 3 from their own 27 or so. About a minute to go at that point. Brock Purdy scrambles on 4th down, fresh out of a timeout. They got no timeouts left. It's 4th down. He scrambles for a first down. He's a good 2 to 3 yards past the first down marker. And he coughs the ball up. All right. Now he got back on the ball. But the problem is he fumbled backwards. He fumbled back behind the first down marker. He recovered his own fumble, but it negated the first down, and the Cyclones lose. I mean, it was painful. And I don't take joy in seeing Iowa State lose. I know I took joy in Iowa beating Iowa State this year. That's totally different. I was rooting for Iowa State late in that game. And to watch how that game ended and how the season ended and the career for Brock Purdy, how it ended, was painful. And I feel sorry for him. It's disappointing. It's frustrating. But again, he's been known. Brock Purdy has been known to make bonehead decisions. You remember the play against TCU a couple of years ago where he's getting sacked and he throws the ball backwards and it gets picked off or recovered as a fumble. This is unfortunately part of Brock Purdy's legacy at Iowa State. And I know a lot of Iowa State fans love Brock Purdy, and they won't stop loving Brock Purdy. I had an Iowa State fan text me after the game. I feel sorry for Brock. I kind of do too. You feel sorry for the kid. But man alive. And he wasn't protecting the football. It was a good play by Clemson, but he was not protecting the football. Now, maybe they would have lost anyways. I mean, they had like 50 seconds left. If the clock would have stopped at the first down marker, and they would have had probably about 65 yards to go in 50 seconds with no timeouts. So it would have been difficult, but man alive, they had the first down. He fumbles backwards. They lose the first down. Give us a call, 515-635-1601, 515-635-1601. If you want to talk about Iowa hoops or mourn in the Cyclones' loss to Clemson. I got corrected on Twitter, so I could have swore that I heard the play-by-play guy for this game, the Iowa game, when Rebraca slammed it in the first half, had a breakaway dunk. I could have swore he said, "The white man slam." And we had one of our listeners, Circle Herc, he corrects me, "The right hand slam." I hope that's what he said, because I don't have a problem guy saying the white man slam. I thought it just seemed kind of odd. Philip Rebraca is still struggling. In all seriousness, he is still struggling, and it's frustrating to see him struggle against the likes of Western Illinois and Southeastern Louisiana. So you hope he can figure it out, because man alive, if he doesn't figure it out, they're going to be playing so much. I mean, they're already playing small ball because they don't have a true center right now. That's part of the problem. Rebraca is not a true center, and he's playing out of position, and so it's hard for him. I think it's been hard for him. But again, you're talking competition here: Southeastern Louisiana, Western Illinois, even the Utah State game, where you'd think he'd be able to hold his own, and he's just still pressing. But again, hopefully he gets things figured out, because they're going to need him in Big Ten season. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame. Who's on the line?
This is David from Indiana again. Cory, how are you?
Good. How are you, David?
Doing well. Hey, I thought the game was well played. Western Illinois is a good team. That number 5 for them, he was a good player. Step back shots. I mean, he was giving Iowa fits, and I'm happy to see the Hawks. I thought they played well, rebounded well this game out, moved the ball well. I thought overall it was a good game leading into the Big Ten season.
I agree, and I think the maybe first 10 minutes or so of that second half, they were kind of sleepwalking. And I'll be honest, I don't blame them at all. I know you're always supposed to be engaged and locked in, but good Lord, this season, the schedule has been, I would think it would be difficult, especially for the veterans on this team, to stay locked in. Because there was a stretch there where, they were up 21 or whatever it was at halftime, and it got cut down to, 13. So, but no, they figured things out. And, Western Illinois is a team that launches a lot of threes, and I don't have the final numbers in front of me. I can grab those, but they never really got into a rhythm from behind the arc. So that's a good sign if you're Iowa.
Yeah. I mean, they were hitting some, but they just never got into it.
5 of 30. 5 of 30 from behind the arc for Western Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, even though they did cut the lead down to 13 or whatever, or 12, whatever it was, I never felt like Iowa was in danger of losing this game. They were playing good defense. I think for the most part, they were playing really good defense. They missed some in the early part of the game. They missed some bunnies. Quite a few players missed shots around the rim. I mean, there was like 4 or 5 of those, and those go in. That pushes the lead up even more. But I mean, I think overall it was a good game. I mean, you got to figure too, the players are coming off an 8-day stretch where they didn't play. They were off for Christmas and things like that. So, I mean, there's probably a little bit of rust, and I thought they did really well. I thought they played well. They had good shots, and Keegan Murray, I mean, as long as he can keep playing like this and producing against stiffer competition, I think we're going to be a tough out for any team in the Big Ten.
And let's be honest, I mean, I agree with you, but I will say this: the one asterisk on that is we have yet to see Keegan really perform like this against upper tier competition. I know he kind of did against Virginia, but once he went down with that ankle injury, we know he missed the Purdue game. I don't think he was 100% against either Illinois or Iowa State. So he's still got something to prove this next month.
Yeah, he does. And that's what I was saying. If he can produce like he's producing against a slower competition. Now, he did really well against Utah State, and Utah State is no team to –
You're right.
There's no slouch team either, and he put up 35 on them. And so there's signs, there's hope. And, I mean, granted, he's only a sophomore too. So I don't think he'll be leaving after this year. I just don't see that happening. I think after his junior year is a good possibility we'll lose him. But he's still a young player. I think this team is growing by leaps and bounds. I like to see the defensive effort. It seems like it's one of the better defensive teams Fran's had since Fran's been there. So they can continue improving that defense and rebounding. That's going to be what's going to win games for us in the Big Ten season.
Now, I got to ask you this question. You don't think Keegan will turn pro, and I don't really know that I have an opinion at this point, but I'm curious as to why you think that. Is it because of his loyalty to the program, or because you don't think he's a lottery pick?
One, I don't think he's a lottery pick right now. I think, two, having a twin brother on the team, how long is he going to be able to play with him?
That's
I think
true.
that's going to play a big part in his decision for sticking with Iowa for at least another year as a junior. I think that's just something. Of course, I've got siblings. I don't have any twins, but I think that is a big pull for him to stay at least one more year after this year.
Yeah, I could see that. And certainly they didn't really play together much at all last year. So, yeah, I could see that. And if Chris can continue to develop, and I think he will, if Keegan, I know that's a long ways off, but if Keegan did come back, that's quite a duo. That's a pretty darn good duo.
Oh yeah, I think that would push Iowa up to be upper echelon Big Ten with a possible run next year. I think we're about 2 years out from really competing for a Big Ten championship. I think next year is going to be probably the best opportunity. And I know I'd say I'm 75% sure Keegan will be back for his junior year. But I think that's going to be one heck of a year with Sanford getting this year under his belt, and Perkins another year. Ulis, I mean, those guys are coming along great. I mean, last year when those guys came in, I'm like, oh man, come on.
Yeah.
Perkins came on late at the end of the year, but this year there is no hesitation, I don't think, from Fran or any of the Iowa fans when those guys are in now. They provide such a spark when the first team is not playing up to snuff, and those guys come in and put a good spark on. So
I got to ask you, if Keegan were to, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if he averages 20-7, if he averages 20-7 through Big Ten play and wins Big Ten Player of the Year, which I think is unlikely to happen given Kofi Coburn and Jaden Ivey and those guys, but if that were to happen, would you change your tune? Do you assume he turns pro at that point?
No, I still don't think so. I go back to Luka Garza. He could have came out after his junior year, and he decided to come back his senior season. He won Big Ten Player of the Year 2 times in a row, won National Player of the Year 2 times in a row, and he still came back. And he didn't have a brother on the team.
I'll say this. I see what you're saying. I will say, though, with all due respect, the one difference is Luka was never projected to go high in any draft. So Keegan is already getting hype for first-round status. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there is a difference there. The athleticism that Keegan possesses does help his draft stock a lot more than Luka Garza's.
Sure. But at the same time, we talk out of one side of our mouth, well, he hasn't done it against stiff competition, but now people are saying he's still a hype.
Yeah, you're right. I know.
We haven't seen him do that against good competition yet, other than Utah State. So
right.
If he can, maybe the tune will change if he's putting up 20, 25 points a game against Big Ten competition. If that's the case, maybe he needs to go and make the money and give some to his brother to help, for NIL deals. I don't know, but I just don't see him coming out this year. I really don't. I think we'll be, if he has a great year, I think he's going to come back for the second year, because I think there's still a pull there too, to want to win a Big Ten championship, to get to the NCAA tournament and go for a deep run and things like that. So I think all that kind of plays into that decision for him.
I hope you're right, and as of right now, I tend to agree with you. And I'd love to see him go 25-10 through Big Ten season. I think if that happens, I think he'd be gone. But I could be wrong too. I just hope that this team realizes, and I think they do. I hope this team realizes that it does have the opportunity to be really good defensively. Last year we just kind of hoped that team, it didn't possess a lot of athleticism, but we just hope that team would be okay. And I don't really know that they ever were okay. At times they were okay, but collectively I don't think they were. But I hope this team understands that they have the personnel to be a good defensive team, and you pair that with what Fran produces on the offensive end of things. This team can be a tournament team and perhaps make a run, but you got to get there first.
Right, absolutely. I think where Iowa's going to struggle is when we play teams like Purdue and Illinois with a big man that is more powerful and things like that. If honestly, I think if we were to replay those games, I know you can't, but if we were to replay Purdue and Illinois didn't have a Cockburn and Purdue didn't have Edey, those games turn out completely different. I don't care Ivy's on that team or not. Iowa played them tough down the stretch and almost clawed their way back out of that hole, and same thing with Illinois. But it's those dominant big men that's going to cause Iowa problems all year long. And if other teams figure that out, then Iowa's going to be – I mean, we're going to play every team tough, but I think we're not going to have as many wins on the board because of that. So Iowa's got to – I don't know why. Hopefully we got something in the pipeline where we have a big man. I know they've got this Mulvey kid, but I just don't see him growing into being a dominant big man in the Big Ten. We need somebody who can be physical and rebound and make the shots and things like that. So.
Well, we've got Owen Freeman coming in. I think was he 23? I believe. I don't think he's 22. So, he's a 6'10" big man. I'm not great at evaluating big men. I'll tell you who we should talk to about this subject is Gary Close, because certainly he had his fair share of big men who developed at a high rate at Iowa and certainly at Wisconsin. But no, I think you're right. They need somebody down low. And as long as Ogundele keeps getting hurt and getting sick, it's going to be hard to get him minutes. I think Fran, if he had to do it over, would have probably given him more minutes against Illinois. I'm surprised, frankly, that he didn't play more in the second half. But you're right. As time goes by, there's going to be times where you're going to have to get one of those two guys in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's potential there, but I just don't think he's going to be, he's a big guy, he's a big body, but I don't know if he has the athleticism to keep it going night after night in the Big Ten. I just don't. I think he's a little bit behind in developmental wise. I mean, granted, he came, he's from London. I know basketball isn't a big thing there. I think that kind of set him back from a basketball development standpoint. I just don't see him ever developing to be a consistent physical presence down low. He gets taken out a lot. If you watch even the games he's played, you'll see him get taken out of the where he's not in position for a rebound or in position to score a bucket. He gets taken out quite a bit by smaller guys. They just get. I just don't think he quite understands it. Maybe he'll grow into that, but I don't think this year is that year.
And you're talking about Ogundele, correct?
Yeah, I'm talking about Ogundele. Yeah.
Yeah, because in Riley's defense, Riley should be in high school right now. I mean, he reclassified.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I think he just needs more minutes and maybe maybe he's running more with the ones and the twos in practice. I don't know. Of course, we don't see that. But yeah, he's a young kid. I think he could do. I think he might grow into something. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still kind of out because I haven't seen enough of Riley Mulvey to really understand what his game's about. But I just think when it comes back to Ogundele, I just don't think he's there developed yet to be. I don't think he understands what he can do.
Well, he's a big body, and I don't think they need him to be. They don't need him to be Luka Garza, but you're right. They're going to need him at some point. So you hope he can give him spot minutes once he's back healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you want everybody on the team to, when they get their number called, to go in and provide something, whether it be a key rebound or a key steal or a key basket at a time or whatever. So, yeah, but other than that, I think Rabracha, I think he's got some athleticism. He's definitely got the basketball knowledge. I think he plays good defense. He passes well. But I just don't think he's going to be able to, without help from Ogundele or Mulvey or one of the Keegans or one of the Murray boys to spell him a little bit, he's going to be worn out by the end of the season.
Yeah, I agree. And I think he he would really benefit from a post presence because I think he's playing out of position. He's just playing
He
out of
is.
position.
He's a small forward. I mean, I know he's like 6'10", but he really plays like a forward or a small forward.
Yeah, and I think he's closer. I think he's closer to 6'8", to be completely honest with you. So
okay.
Yeah, I hope you hope because he's went up against some really good big men. Some physical teams, Iowa State, Virginia. Those are physical defenses. So you hope maybe he's figuring it out. I mean, I think he's obviously a mature kid. So you just hope the best for these kids. And Iowa has proven they know how to develop big men. I know Frank Garza was a big part of Luca's development, but Iowa's had some good big men under Fran. I mean, I know people criticize Adam Woodbury. Adam Woodbury was a really good defender, and as was Gabe Olashaney.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Woodbury. I don't care that he never dunked. I mean, it didn't bother me as long as he was making baskets, and I thought he was a good get for Fran when we needed a spark to get the team back on the map.
Yeah, big recruiting.
I thought Gabe Olashaney was fantastic. I loved when Gabe was in there, and I was honestly sad to see Ahmad Wagner leave the program to go play football. I thought Ahmad was a great player for Fran and for Iowa. He always gave us a good spark, and he was wide body. I mean, he was 6'8", 6'7", but he was a wide body and to get rebounds, and that's what we needed at the time. And we just need somebody like that again who can just come in and just be the rebound guy. I mean, that'd be great.
Well, there's guys there. We can just cross our fingers and hope they develop and get healthy and stay healthy because they're going to need them at some point.
That's right. Well, I just wanted to call in and just say appreciate the show, and it was a good game, and wish everybody a happy New Year.
Always appreciate it, David. Have a great night.
Yep. Bye-bye.
I agree. I agree with them. I mean, you're going to have to figure out a way to get, I've been saying it since the beginning of the season, you're going to have to figure out a way to get spot minutes at the 5 from someone. And I'm not talking about Philip or Bracha. I feel bad for Philip because, again, he's playing out of position. He's also adjusting to life in the Big Ten. And I know this isn't Big Ten basketball you're playing right now. But I think just the combination of those two things, playing at the 5, and again, North Dakota, I mean, he was shooting threes. I don't know how many threes he attempted at North Dakota, but I saw him make threes last year, and just in watching tape. So, again, they're going to figure out a way, and we didn't see a whole lot from him. To me, he stood out a lot more early, and I think it seems like once we hit that Purdue game kind of made him sideways, it seemed like. And again, you understand you're going up against 7'4" Zach Edey. You're going up against Kofi Coburn against Illinois. Iowa State was just so freaking physical. So I think that sort of put him in a funk because I thought he played well against Virginia, to be completely honest. I thought he played well. But again, the Big Ten is here. The Big Ten is here. All right, this is a non-related question specifically to the game. Ray says, Cory, who's your favorite Hawk basketball player of all time? Well, I'm not that old, to be completely honest, Ray. So I know a lot of people are going to say B.J. Armstrong, Ronnie Lester, Andre Woolridge. I see Ray just commented Andre. I would probably, for me, I'm looking at my era. I think if I was around during the B.J. era, I'd probably say B.J. or Roy Marble. But my era, I'd probably go Luka. Yeah. I mean, I'd probably go Luka. I'm frustrated that Luka didn't have some of the physical attributes to be elite defensively, but man, you see what Luka's doing right now in the NBA. I mean, he hasn't played a ton, but he started the other night and had over 20 points. So, and I think that's just more great things are coming for Luka Garza because the dude is just a hard worker. So, I would probably say Luka. I'll tell you, there's some guys. Fran has brought in some guys who I really have enjoyed watching, and I'm not just talking about Luka and Aaron White. I'm talking Matt Gatens. I really enjoyed watching Jared Uthoff. I thought Jared. I know Gary Close has an interesting perspective on Jared because he coached Jared at Wisconsin, and Gary and I have had conversations just between the two of us about Jared and his skill set. He was a really fun player to watch. I think part of the problem with Jared is he can never bulk up enough to really make it in the NBA. He's been really good overseas. And Aaron White, very underrated guy. I think Devin Marble I enjoyed watching him play. You go back even into the Steve Alford years. I loved watching Adam Oluska. Jeff Horner is just a really nice person, and he was fun to watch when he was healthy. Greg Bruner was a physical. I mean, I know I'm just kind of going through every guy from the 21st century at Iowa, but yeah, I've been impressed with the personnel that Fran has brought in. He's done a nice job. He hasn't gotten any 5-star kids, all right, but he's developing kids sort of like the Iowa football program does to a different degree. I know they haven't had the success in the NBA producing NBA players, but they have been able to produce enough guys to be able to win and make the tournament fairly consistently. At some point, it'd be nice if Fran could land a 4. Well, he's landed 4 stars. Land a 5-star kid. I know it's easier said than done, and he's worked hard to do it. Fran is not like Kirk in that staff in this. Kirk and the basketball staff at times hesitates to go after the big names. And I understand that, you got to be realistic in recruiting, and you're not going to waste your time with a kid that, is probably not going to come. But I appreciate the fact that Fran has shot for the stars, and he's missed. But he's gotten close. Like, he's gotten very close. Think of Aaron Eulis' brother, Tyler. He's a perfect example of a kid they got close on. Xavier Foster, they got close on him. Of course, he ended up going to Iowa State. Now he's not on a team because he's got an investigation against him, criminal investigation currently underway in his name. And you can go down the list. Trace Jackson Davis was a kid Iowa was high on, who was a 5-star. So, the personnel has been good. Ben, what is the point of all this talk? Fran has been at Iowa for over 1 decade. He has never made it past the second round. They don't play defense, never have. Meaningless chatter. What's the point of what? Are we asking what's the point of talking about our favorite players? Are we talking about the point of recapping anything? I mean, I'm assuming Ben's not an Iowa fan, or he's just a bitter Iowa fan. They did win by 21 tonight. So if we want to really complain about Fran not making it past the second round, I mean, that's you have a right to complain as an Iowa fan, especially if you're a donor or you're a season ticket holder. You have a right to complain. I'm frustrated by it. I'm sure Fran's frustrated by it, but that doesn't mean are we just supposed to shut down and never talk Iowa basketball until they make it past the second round? That's not how I operate. The real Hayden, Reggie Evans and that 01 team was the first basketball team I remember watching with my dad. Reggie Evans is my answer. Luka Garza is my second. Yeah, Reggie Evans, I really was too young to remember Reggie at the collegiate level. Watched him immensely a lot at the NBA level with the 76ers, and I know he was kind of tossed around the league, Brooklyn. But, rebounding machine. And talk about a hard worker. He could really help his team. If they continue to struggle with rebounding, which they've rebounded the ball better these last few nights, but if they continue to struggle with rebound, maybe bring Reggie back in here for some seminars. I think he would certainly help. Hyperlocal, Ricky Davis was a stud. Absolutely. And thank you for this update. Have not been able to look at the stats for the Pistons, but Luka had 4 points tonight, played 39 minutes. Yeah, that's going to be how it is. I mean, early on especially. But again, over 20 the other night, and it's just good to hear that he played 39 minutes. 39 minutes, really. That's incredible. And I know there's a lot of COVID issues in the NBA right now, but that's good to hear. Ray, Chris Street or Jeff Moe. Man, I wasn't around for the Chris Street era or the Jeff Moe era for that matter. We might have an opportunity to see Pete Moe in an Iowa jersey. I don't know, if I'm sure he's on Fran's radar right now. He's playing really well in Iowa City, but Jeff Moe, though, I don't remember Jeff. Ray, you'll have to fill me in on this, and if you're welcome to give us a call, but I don't remember. I think I'm somewhat familiar with the Tom Davis eras as far as, I say somewhat. I'm familiar with personnel, but as far as the pecking order on some of these teams, I don't remember Jeff Moe being real high on the pecking order. Now, maybe I'm wrong. So somebody fill me in on when Jeff Moe was here, and I could certainly Google search it, but let me know if you can. I'm curious. I reached out to Jeff back before the season started. And I won't get into why, but I wasn't able to get in touch with Jeff. Tried to get in touch with Jeff about something, wasn't able to. I know he, again, has his son, very busy with his son right now, who's getting recruited by a lot of Division I programs right now. He's playing well. Really good scorer. The real Hayden, your favorite player of all time that wore the black and gold is none other than Austin Ash. Fair enough. That is fair enough. Eric, favorite player was Andre Woolridge. Mark Miller, BJ Armstrong, absolutely. Let's see here. Oatmeal for life. This is a positive outlook. I appreciate this. We're talking about transfers. Bakari Evelyn got better as the year went on. Hopefully, Rebracha can follow a similar path. And I feel sorry for Bakari Evelyn because he never, I actually think it's pronounced Evelyn, Bakari Evelyn. He never got an opportunity in the NCAA tournament. And that's tough for a kid like that. He was on a team that would have made the tournament. And COVID shuts things down, and he was never able to see that out. So, but you're right. Maybe Rebracha can follow a similar path. Remember, Rebracha has another year of eligibility, and he's talked about the fact, he talked with me personally before he actually got to Iowa about this on our show, and basically said he plans on being here 2 years unless something different changes. Unless something changes, he's going to be here for 2 years. So he's got time to develop, but they need help inside now. So, yeah, hopefully he can improve as the season goes on. BJ, AC Earl, one of my favorites. Absolutely. Eric, anyone remember Sir Jam-a-Lot? Jerry Wright. Man, you're getting way before my time, Eric. Let me look Jerry Wright up. Jerry Wright. Maybe it's not as old as Maybe he's not as old as I'm thinking he was. When was Jerry? Okay, 85 to 87. Well, I can tell you this. I know who will remember him is Gary Close. I'll have to ask Gary about this. And we'll have a conversation. We'll have some conversations with Gary when we get him back here on video in the coming weeks, coming days, actually. And we'll talk about some of his favorite memories from the Tom Davis era. Because, man, I'm sure he's got a lot to share. The real Hayden, who was the guy that only dunked every time he got a touch in the early to mid 2000s? I'm guessing you're talking about Doug Thomas. That's me. That'd be my guess. Doug Thomas. Dude was an athletic freak, but yeah, that was the Alford era. So I could be wrong. Maybe you're talking about someone else. Maybe you're talking about someone in the earlier Alford era, because that was probably Doug Thomas was probably here 05 to 07, somewhere in there. So maybe 04 to 07. Yeah, I have good. And that was when I was really young, but I remember Doug Thomas and that crowd. Talk about crowds, and we're going to talk about crowds struggling to show up at games. That Doug Thomas, the era of Doug Thomas, and that was kind of, I want to say Doug was here really early. Like we're talking Jeff Horner, Adam Haluska. Trying to think everybody else on that team, man, Greg Bruner, Eric Hansen. So I think those guys were kind of at the tail end of Doug Thomas's career. I could be wrong on that. Sometimes I get eras confused in my head, but yeah, that's probably who you're talking about, Hayden. Hyper local. I think this is the best all around team Fran has had. Wow. That is a huge compliment. Just need to get them playing good at end of season and defense. Well, that's true. But here's the deal. I'm not saying they won't, but we've said that before. We have said that exact thing before, that this team needs to finish hard, finish in March, and fix some issues on defense. And since 2017, they have not been able to figure out defense, just in general. Now, this team has better physical attributes to be able to make up for some of the other issues that they have defensively, but they still got to prove it. They got to prove it night in and night out against great competition. They have not done that yet, but they haven't had the chance to do that yet because they haven't been playing good competition. So, and I don't think they played bad on defense against. I mean, Illinois, there were stretches in that game where they did not play good defense at all. But that Iowa State game, that was a good defensive showing. I think the Purdue game was a good defensive showing. Certainly Utah State was. Wilbur, doesn't matter if they are the best team he's had, they will lose first weekend in March like always. Fran needs to go. Man alive, there's a lot of hostility, folks. Where is all this hostility? I mean, I don't. Is it because of the football team? What are we mad about right now? Or are we still salty about the Iowa State loss? I don't know. There's a lot of negativity in the chat tonight from I shouldn't say a lot, a couple people, right? Wilbur, if you're an Iowa fan, it's a new year, right? They're 10-3, haven't even started Big Ten play. So I understand the frustration, but Fran does not deserve to be fired. Okay, that's going too far. I understand the frustration though that you want better. I get that. I want to get past the second round. Look, I'm 25 years old, and I don't remember. Well, I have to go back. When was the last Sweet 16 appearance? Not my era of watching, right? I'd have to look back. Has it been? Was in the 90s, right? I don't know. It's been too long ago. I agree with that. I totally agree with that. But it's far too early to be complaining right now. I mean, we're in late December. This team is young. They are 10-3. They've got a couple good wins, no great wins, but a couple of good wins, and the rest of their losses. I mean, Iowa State right now is a top 10 team. Purdue's a top 5 team. And Illinois, I think, will be a top 10 team. They were at one point. Those are three quality losses. They've got to figure out a way to win some games, though. Ben, you are totally fine. No need for an apology. Appreciate your support as well. And we need to demand more, better in-state talent in basketball than football. One Sweet 16 in 11 years isn't a wild ask, in my opinion. I agree with you, Ben, but let's give Fran credit, because I don't care about star ratings. I don't care about any of that stuff. The simple fact here is, I understand that it plays a role, right? It is an indication of a player's recruitment and their level of skill. But let's not forget about some of the in-state kids Fran has gotten, Ben. Specifically, 2 guys who are the leading scorer on this team and the second leading scorer, and that's Chris and Keegan. Now, I know they're kind of a legacy pair because of who their dad is. I get that. But Fran's got to be given a lot of credit for giving them a shot. Because, heck, they didn't have any other Division I offers besides the team they played tonight, Western Illinois. I believe that's the only other team. I could be wrong, but I believe that's the only other team that officially offered the Murray twins. And yes, they went down to DME Academy in Florida, got better down there, but those are Cedar Rapids kids who were on nobody's radar, and Fran went out and got them. Now, you could say, well, he didn't have to beat out any big schools. Well, I do happen to know that Auburn was in on these kids hard. Bruce Pearl was in on them hard, which you can understand why. Bruce was around during the Kenyon era as well, but it doesn't really matter. He got them. And Keegan is going to be, as long as he stays healthy and continues to develop at just the rate he's developing right now, mid-season. And I'm not saying he's going to go this year. I know we had that discussion with our caller earlier. He is going to be on an NBA roster. All right. So that's better than you can say about basically any other player under Fran besides Garza, Marble. I know Marble was on a roster for, here and there for a while, as was Jared Utoff. Aaron White's never made an NBA roster, but Luka and Joe Wieskamp, Peter Jock never is, I don't think, made a roster. So, and I'm not, I guess I can go out on a limb and say I'm guaranteeing it. I have a hard time seeing anything but injuries derailing that. So the fact that Fran was able to grab these kids, and we don't know what Chris is going to do. We have no idea what Chris is going to do. Now, I understand in-state recruiting, there have been some frustrating moments. You think back to the DJ Carton situation, but, DJ then went on. I know they lost the battle for DJ. DJ goes to Ohio State, played okay, dealt with some mental health issues, ends up going to Marquette, and you kind of forget about him. I'm not saying his hometown of Bettendorf forgot about him, but I don't know that he fulfilled the recruiting hype. They did miss out on Marcus Page. They missed out on Xavier Foster, but I'm telling you, I live here in Ames. Xavier ain't playing basketball for a while. All right. That investigation is still ongoing. And again, maybe he wouldn't have gotten in trouble in Iowa City, but perhaps not getting Xavier was a blessing in disguise. I understand what you're saying though, Ben. The expectations in general, whether we're talking recruiting or postseason play, it's okay to want more, and it's okay to feel, especially if you're a paying fan and you're contributing to this program somehow, whether it be through donations or tickets, whatever the case may be. It's okay to want more, and I respect your opinion on that. And you're right. One Sweet 16 in 11 years is not a wild ask. I would totally agree with that. And they've had the pieces. The pieces were there last year, folks. The pieces were there last year, and I placed that on Fran. That team needed to be better prepared for an athlete. I know you can't do anything about athleticism, but that team needed to be better prepared defensively, and they were not against Oregon. I'm a fan of Fran. All right, but I think he would even admit to that. I hope that he was accountable. He had to be accountable after that. And I think he was. I think he was probably accountable to his guys. I hope. I certainly know the players were, but that team had so much offensive talent, and you're right, didn't pan out the way we wanted. But let's just wait, because again, this team is built different than any other team we've seen under Fran. I'm not saying it's going to be better than any other team, but it's built differently. This is as much athleticism as Iowa's had. I am concerned physically, because you can be athletic and not be big, physical, right? I mean, this team is not Michigan State. It's not Ohio State. Those teams got big, thick guys who are able to bang down low. Iowa doesn't have that. That's why I've hoped for months now that Josh Ogundele would develop quicker. So we'll see, but it's still built differently. They have athleticism that no other team has had under Fran, so it potentially a different outcome. But again, several months away from March. Eric, Tom Davis last year's Sweet 16. So that would have been, what, 90? I'll look this up. I don't want to confirm this, and I feel embarrassed not knowing. 99, right? Would have been the last year for Tom Davis. So I'm seeing here 1970, 1980, 83, 87, 88, 99. There was a gap there, though. 12 years, right? Without 11 years without a Sweet 16 appearance. So, but you're right. It's been 22 years. That's the longest gap. If I'm looking at this correctly, that's the longest gap since 1955. The longest drought, I guess I should say. So, yeah, it's not good. Yeah, it's not good. You want to perform better in postseason play. I don't think postseason play should be the only thing we look at when evaluating a coach. But it certainly is something that is a factor, big factor. James, Fran is recruiting defense more than ever. Look at Bowen. Then you have Ulis and Perkins. He just needs to get better at getting bigs. Now, James, who is Bowen? First person I'm thinking you're talking about is Bowen Bourne. So I don't know who Bowen is. Am I missing something? Am I not thinking of the right guy here? Maybe there's a typo. Explain that to me if you could, James. Let's see. The real Hayden. While I don't disagree that Fran has not performed in postseason play, we're in the middle of a season. Nothing is changing right now. Like football midseason, either get on the train or don't. And I respect that point of view as well, Hayden. I respect it. We have not, like, you can't look at this team. You can't convince me, even though I do have negative feelings about Iowa basketball teams defensively. You can't look at this Fran coach team and say they don't play defense. That has not been proven, because I think they have played defense at times. There have been times where the defense hasn't been good, closing out on three-point shooters, allowing guys to get in the lane. Pick and roll defense was really bad in the first half against Utah State, but see, they figured things out in the second. So once we get to Big Ten play, we'll get a better feel for this. Okay, let's see here. Hyperlocal. This was a decent Western Illinois team. They have yet to lose by more than 10 points all season. Now, they have not played a real tough schedule. All right. I know they did beat Nebraska. They beat... Let me run through their schedule for anybody not familiar. So in early November, they beat Nebraska by a point, opening night. They played Culver Stockton, who I'm assuming is a Division II team. Then they played Iowa Wesleyan. They're what, Division III? They're not Division I. Won those games by double digits. Lost to DePaul by 4. Beat Northern Kentucky by 2. Lost to Eastern Michigan by 4. Beat Miami, Ohio by 12. Beat Ball State by 13. Beat UT Martin by 17. Beat Central Michigan by 17. Beat Eastern Illinois by 17, beat Denver in overtime by 4. They did lose to Nebraska Omaha, who is 2-11. So that's not a good loss on the Western Illinois resume. But again, they did beat Nebraska and did compete with DePaul. So this is not this is not a resume building win. What Iowa did tonight is not a resume building win. All right. You're just looking to get out of Dodge. You're just looking to get out of Dodge, get to Monday and give yourself an opportunity to start building the resume, because the resume is not getting built right now. 10-3 that doesn't do anything. Doesn't do anything when the 10 wins are against, Western Michigan, Portland State, and, Longwood. That it just doesn't do anything. So now this is a better team tonight, but it's not like the committee's not looking in March. The committee's not going to look back at this saying, well, they beat Western Illinois by 21 points at home. Wow, that's a solid win. No, I don't even know. I mean, I can look up. I'll go ahead and look up just for the sake of this discussion. Let's go ahead and look up the net rankings. Because again, I understand that we're talking resume, and it's far too early to be doing that. But heck, we're talking Iowa basketball, so let's look at this. So currently, and these are net rankings that were updated yesterday, or through the games that were completed yesterday. Right now, Iowa is 27 in the net rankings. Now, put that in perspective. Iowa State is 18 in the net. Let me look, see if Western Illinois, sure they're on here somewhere, right? All right. Western Illinois is 124. So that's a lot better than most of these teams that Iowa has played. And the net rankings goes through the entire 358 Division I teams. So I wasn't sure if it did. So it does. And again, Western Illinois is at least upper third of the net rankings currently. So, that's a good win. Utah State right now is 53. So that's the best win that Iowa has. Well, let's look at Virginia, because of course that game was on the road. Virginia, see, they're 114. So the Utah State right now, by net rankings, which do matter, we're talking resumes, right now Utah State's a better win. I know it's neutral court, but again, it's against a top 55 net ranking team. Purdue, let's look at the top of this list, though. The three losses for Iowa: Purdue, who's 6 right now in the net rankings. Iowa State is 18, and Illinois is 15. So these are all good losses, if you will. If any loss can be a good loss. But now they're going to have an opportunity. They're going to have an opportunity to start proving themselves against better competition. For instance, Maryland, 118. That game's at home. That's a game they need to win. All right. But just 4 spots below what Virginia is at right now in the net rankings. So that's a game you need to win. You need to be beating Penn State every time you play them. You need to be beating Nebraska every time you play them. For Iowa to make the tournament right now from here on out, I would probably say Iowa needs to go 500 from here on out in Big Ten play. So that's 9-9. Would put you at 9-11. That gives you a chance. I don't know that you're going to make it at 8-12, but 9-11 may get you in without much work in the Big Ten tournament. But I think you're squarely on the bubble, and it doesn't just come down to conference play, but it comes down to complete resume. So I'm looking at what they've done non-conference play. Haven't really done a whole lot. A couple good wins, no great wins, but no bad losses. So you're looking at needing, I think, at least being close to 500. Again, maybe 9-11 will get you in. I think 10-10 certainly would. I think it would. Now, you go 9-11 without any real good wins, perhaps not. But you got to win games at home. Got to beat Maryland on Monday. That's a huge game. As close to a must-win as I can imagine. All right. The real Hayden. Purdue bested Nicholls State 104-90. Yeah, Purdue, no defense in that game. Sort of like what we saw from Illinois earlier this year. They played Rio Grande Valley and gave up like 95. At this point, again, Gary's talked about it live on our show. And of course, if you're just tuning in, Gary Close, Coach Close, was with us at the outset of the show, but he's actually in Iowa City, was at the game. And so we only got him for a few minutes tonight. He'll be back with us on Monday. But he's talked about this. It's hard to keep your guys engaged when you have these long breaks for finals and for holiday break. So I commend Iowa for being able to do that. And perhaps that's what happened with Purdue. Score 104, but give up 90 to Nicholls. So, similar situation with Wisconsin. 89-85, giving up 85 to Illinois State. I wouldn't read too much into it, folks. This is a weird time of year. We're going to get into Big Ten play, and it's bang, 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 game after game after game. High Point put up 68, only lost by 13 to Michigan State. Again, I think you're going to expect that. A lot of games being canceled too. I hope that some of these guys aren't going to be canceled, or some of these games won't be canceled here for Iowa in the coming weeks. But certainly there are games getting canceled, whether you agree with it or not. That's just fact of what's happening. Okay, Mark, you're talking about Bowen as in what was his? Oh, you're talking about DeSante Bowen. Okay, there's another Bowen that's being recruited by Iowa in the same class. In fact, he plays, I believe, at the same high school. But you're talking about DeSante Bowen, so thank you for recalling that to my memory. Yeah, that's a good recruiting win for Iowa. I thought DeSante Bowen, he's the best guard. If you're looking at rankings and I think hype, if that's worth anything, he's their best point guard they've recruited. All right, it's not Jordan Bohannon, it's not Joe Toussaint, it's not Aaron Eulis. It is DeSante Bowen. So that's an opportunity. I'm glad you brought that up. As far as recruiting wins, you got to give him credit. Now, they got to hold on to him because now with the portal and everything, you never know. But James, yes, DeSante 2022. Again, let's not panic about the defense. Still very early. Oatmeal for life. Couple of my faves were Dean Oliver, Jeff Horner, great point guards who were actually both coached by Jeff's dad at Mason City High. And yeah, Jeff's a cool story, and I know he's fought cancer recently. I think he's through that. I feel bad not knowing, but yeah, no, I love Jeff Horner as well, and I don't really remember Dean Oliver. I know he's up at Wisconsin now. All right, Bud. In the updated Ken Palm, Iowa is 23. Iowa State is 44. Okay. I don't know what to say on that. Let me confirm this here. If that's the case, I like Ken Palm. I always have. Yeah, he's right. Iowa is. That's surprising. But again, I don't know exactly. I mean, you're looking at offensive efficiency versus defensive efficiency. So Iowa right now in Ken Palm has the 4th ranked offense in the country. They have the 116th ranked defense in the country. Again, it's early, but good Lord, those are bad. That's a bad defensive number. If we're just looking at the number, that's a bad defensive number. I'm looking through the overall top ranked defenses or top ranked teams. The team, there isn't a team with a worse defensive ranking until you get to number 56, Davidson. They have a ranking of 120 defensively. So Iowa's got work to do. Again, so according to Ken Palm, adjusted defensive efficiency is points allowed per 100% possessions adjusted for opponent. So again, how exactly that's adjusted, I haven't went into a deep enough study into Ken Pomeroy's rankings. I do like Ken Palm. I think he's got some great data here. Some of it I can't really validate as to how he's coming up with some of this stuff, because he's saying he's adjusting it for opponents. So, again, when Iowa's played seven games against teams that are, 250 plus in net rankings or Ken Palm rankings, then I don't know how you really. Again, guys are on the bench late in the game. Guys are going to let off because they're up by 30. So once we get into Big Ten play, these rankings will be more consequential to me. Iowa State's got 140th ranked offense in the country, but the 8th ranked defense in the country, again, according to Ken Palm. So we'll see if that plays itself out. But the defense has to get better if that number plays itself out. And I think just from the eyeball test, Iowa's playing better defense than 116 in the country. That's how I feel at this point. They're playing better defense than that. But we'll have to wait and see. James, this roster does scare me in Big Ten play with having to go against Liddell, Coburn, Williams, and any other big I'm missing. Just the bigs scare me on defense. We need to recruit bigs. Well, we're recruiting bigs, James. Again, maybe Ogundele's not there yet. Riley's not there yet, but they got Owen Freeman coming in. They're good on big men for now. They are good on big men. I think they're going to be fortunate to keep all of them. And they've already played a game against Coburn and Williams. So now they play each of those games, each of those teams again, I believe. But the point is they're halfway done with those matchups. Liddell's not real big. Liddell's what, 6'9"? He's physical. He's a good shooter, but I think Iowa can survive. Remember, Iowa beat Ohio State late in the year last year without Nungy and without a Gundelay. All right, so they were. I know Garza played in those games, but there were times when Garza was on the bench and the Murray twins held, specifically Keegan. Keegan held his own. I don't think I'd have to think back. I don't think. I'm trying to think if. I'm trying to think who else played the 5 last year because when Nungy went down and Gundelay wasn't playing, and it was a free year for everybody. So Chris, I don't know how much time Chris got. Did Chris get some time in that game? That was a weird game, though, because it was a game where people kind of expected Ohio State to, well, first of all, win, but to dominate inside. But again, Ohio State, they do have the Zed Key kid. I'd be more concerned about Iowa going up against Zed Key. I don't know who they're going to have to match up against him because he's a big, big guy. Liddell is going to pull you out, and they got guys who can play against him, but I don't think Rebracha can match up with Key. So I'd be more concerned about that matchup. But certainly, those are the teams, you're right, those are the teams that you would scare you from a matchup standpoint. Hyperlocal, Iowa's favored in all of their games the rest of the season except for Purdue and Illinois. I cannot believe that. I don't know. Do we even have, or these games aren't, the odds aren't out on these games yet, are they? Come on. I don't think that could possibly, they're not going to be favored at Wisconsin. They could be favored in every game in January, besides the Wisconsin game. They're not going to be favored in the game against Wisconsin. February, they're not going to be favored at Ohio State. I doubt they're favored at home against Michigan State. Highly doubt it. They may not even be favored at home against Michigan. And they're not going to be favored on the road at Michigan. So, I mean, I'm not trying to rain on your parade here, Hyperlocal, but boy, that's I don't believe that. Now, if they keep playing well, some of those games, perhaps could turn. But when you're playing on the road in the Big Ten, I don't care who you are, it's hard to win. Mark Miller, Fran needs to hire an assistant as a defensive specialist and listen to them. Been saying it for years, Mark. It's what John Beilein did at Michigan. And what happened? They ended up going to Final Fours. He's an offensive coach. He realized he needed help. They go hire the guy from Northern Illinois to help. They become elite. You could argue the same for football and offense, right? Go hire an actual offensive mind. But again, hasn't happened. Probably won't happen. All right. You corrected yourself there. Yes, Michigan, Ohio State, Purdue, and Illinois, we will not be favored. No, we will not. But, I think this team is, if this team's making threes, they can play with anybody. All right. And I think this team has enough three-point shooting. One guy we haven't talked a lot about that played well tonight is Peyton Sanford. I know we brought him up early. But man, 13 points, 3 of 3 from 3. All right. Again, with his size and his ability to run the court, run the floor, if he can be making threes at this rate and chip in, even if it's just 8 to 10 points a game, 2 to 3 threes a game, that will help. Somebody needs to relieve the pressure from Jordan Bohannon making threes because as you and I both know, when a team decides we're going to lock down Jordan Bohannon, we're going to face guard him, it's hard for Jordan. Now, he doesn't need a double team. You can, if you have a guy who knows how to face guard Jordan Bohannon, it's going to be hard for him to score. And Jordan Bohannon, give him credit, it's 13 points tonight. But again, this is Western Illinois. It's not the Big Ten Conference. The Big Ten's more than familiar with them. More than familiar. There's not a single player besides the true freshmen in this league that have not played against Jordan Bohannon. So everybody, well, and of course transfers, but everybody in this league, virtually everybody in this league, understands how he plays. I don't want to call him one-dimensional. That would not be fair to Jordan, but he lacks athleticism. He lacks size. He lacks speed. So we say it every year. If he's not making threes, it's hard to justify him getting a lot of minutes. And Tony Perkins has been quiet here these last couple of games, but he's certainly making his case for more and more minutes. Tim the Tap Man, good to see you here, buddy. Just got back from the game. Appreciate you going out there. Despite some slippery weather, it sounds like. Again, we got a little bit of snow here in Ames, but I did see on the radar that Iowa City in the east side of the state was hit a little bit harder. And yes, I did see your correction here, Hyperlocal. I don't know where you're getting these odds. I'm maybe there are odds out there. I don't know how far in advance these I mean, there is no official line yet, right? These games aren't set until, I want to say, the week of. So maybe I'm sure there are odds makers out there that are picking games weeks in advance, but yes, I did see your correction, so I appreciate that. And Patrick McCaffrey, another guy we didn't talk about, he's still producing, and I don't know that Chris, I mentioned that Chris was the second leading scorer on the season. I don't know if that's changed now. I should look at this, I guess, because Chris has been real quiet these last 2 games. Yeah, so that has changed. So I was wrong on that because Patrick now is the second leading scorer, 11.9 points per game. Jordan at 10.8, Chris at 10.2. They got 4 guys in double figures, and Tony's averaging 9 points a game. So, they've got balance, even though Keegan has been averaging 23. Now, again, this is against competition where it's going to be a lot easier to score than once we get to Big Ten play. Obviously, that goes without saying. But they're rebounding the ball better. We mentioned that battle. I'll pop that stat up here. These are the numbers I'm going to continue to monitor. You need to be dominating a team like Western Illinois. I don't care how good Western Illinois is. This is not a team that Iowa should be struggling on the boards with. So 41-31, that's a good number. That's what they should be doing. That's an advantage they should have. Again, will it translate? Will it translate to the Maryland game? That's a question and a fair one. Hyperlocal. Peyton family lives in my neighborhood, has a basketball court in his house. Well, that doesn't surprise me. I don't know anything about the Sanford family, but obviously that's well, let's think about him in high school, right? He played with the DeVries kid, right? At Hawkeyes. That's probably a group of friends that probably have access to with Jared DeVries and that whole friends base and family. I'm sure they've got access to about anything they need over there to continue their and don't forget Price Sanford. I forget about Price. Price is going to be a kid who's probably I'm sure is already being recruited highly by Iowa. I know he's being recruited by a lot of schools right now. So yeah, Price and Peyton. I'm not surprised by that. But yeah, I was impressed with Peyton tonight. All right. Let me throw this banner up. So Monday, Iowa, Maryland. It's a big game. I mean, obviously we have a bowl game on Saturday to watch, we hope, assuming COVID doesn't get in the way of that. Let's be honest, folks, whether you agree with it or not, games are going to get postponed or canceled due to COVID even if it's just the opponent testing positive. So you hope that doesn't happen. So far, knock on wood, Iowa basketball has been fine, as has Iowa football. We hope we get to Saturday and get the Citrus Bowl as we expect. And then, of course, moving forward Monday. If you're in Iowa City, I can't emphasize this enough. Again, I'm not in Iowa City. If I was there, I'd be going to some of these games. If you can make it, support this team. This is a team that has an opportunity to be really good. I'm not going to say they're really good right now. I know Brian Butch of BTN made a comment this past game after the Southeastern Louisiana game that Iowa's a top 20 team. I'm not going that far. This is way too early to make declarations like that. They've beaten nobody inside the top 50, right? If we're looking at KenPom or we're looking at net. I guess I shouldn't say that about KenPom. Let me scroll through KenPom here. Again, the 2 wins for Iowa that we're talking about would be Virginia and Utah State. So Virginia is right now ranked 71 in overall KenPom, and Utah State is 61. So nobody in the top 50 in either the net rankings or KenPom's rankings for Iowa as far as wins at this point. So let's be patient. This is an opportunity to start getting some of these wins. This is a must-win game on Monday. Maryland is probably, if you look at the standings right now, again, each team has only played 2 games. Maryland's only played 1. Maryland's only played 1 Big Ten game. Northwestern's played 1 Big Ten game. But Maryland is probably going to finish in the bottom third of the conference because of the coaching change. And, the Big Ten's tough. Again, the Big Ten is tough. I don't know who you'd put below them besides Penn State and Nebraska. Indiana has a lot of talent returning. We haven't seen them put it together yet, but now they've got Woodson as their coach, so perhaps that changes. Rutgers might finish below. I could see Rutgers finishing below Maryland, but Rutgers did knock off Purdue. It's a good conference, but you got to beat Penn State every time you play them. You got to beat Nebraska every time you play them. I think you probably need to beat Maryland every time you play them. And it'd sure help if you could sweep teams like Indiana and Rutgers. That's a tall order because all these teams are capable of beating you. But it starts Monday, Iowa, Maryland, inside Carver Hawkeye Arena, 8 p.m. Central Time on BTN. And we'll get one last comment here from Donna Myers. I like how Fran takes Iowa kids, gives them a chance to play. We might not always have the best recruits, but we have kids that love the Hawks. Fran does a good job building confidence, and that's a good way to end the show. I'm a Fran fan. I said that earlier. I'll say it again. Does he deserve criticism at times? Absolutely. We've talked about the defense ad nauseum. I feel like it's the opposite conversation that we had with Iowa football. But you don't see mass departures for kids transferring out of this program. I know C.J. Frederick left. I know Jack Nunge left. Certain circumstances surrounding those two transfers. But Fran has done a nice job here. Now we just got to see the defense come together to a point where you can actually win a couple nights or couple games in the tournament. Eric, yeah, let's go get a win on Saturday. The bowl game, of course, Iowa and Kentucky. And Mike, appreciate you being here tonight as well. Tim, the Tap Man, what is the update on Connor McCaffrey? I don't have an official update because I've been on here since the game ended. All I can tell you is that Connor did return to the game, Tim. Excuse me, not to the game, but to the sidelines, and no boot and no crutches. So that's probably a good sign. I'm sure, again, it looked like an ankle sprain. So it looked like he had a brace on that ankle, which, again, is understandable. But I would guess, can't say this definitively, I don't know, but I would guess it's not as serious as maybe initially feared. And the real Hayden. Why was Turgeon canned so early in the season? It sounds like, from the reports that have surfaced, it sounds like players and family of players were just not on board. So I don't know why. I don't know how many transfers they dealt with in the offseason. I guess I'd have to look back. I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to Maryland, but it just didn't sound like it was meshing. And he's been there a long time, so perhaps wore out his welcome. Yeah, that's going to hurt them. Again, they bounced back with a nice win against Florida. And Maryland, let's see, they lost to Virginia Tech in the ACC Big Ten Challenge, lost to Northwestern, beat Florida, beat Lehigh. So they'll play Brown tomorrow. They play Brown University tomorrow on BTN. So if you want to catch Iowa's next opponent tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Central Time on BTN. So, but again, I think it's a game Iowa should be able to win. Not saying they're going to blow them out. Boy, it'd be nice if we could get a convincing win. But this is a game Iowa absolutely needs to win. It's at home. Got to get it done against the Maryland Terrapins. All right, reminders here, folks. We will be with you. We're planning a show, all right, a live show on Friday. All right, it'll be late afternoon, evening at the earliest. I know that the college football playoff semifinals are going on Friday, so I'll keep you updated. If you're not following myself on Twitter, please do that, because I'll give you updates on Twitter as to when we're going live. All right. So again, from the Hawkeye of the Storm, if you haven't already subscribed here on YouTube, do so, please. Also follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and I'll throw up the ticker at the bottom. From the Hawkeye of the Storm, our podcast available through Spotify, Apple, Anchor, Google, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And this show will be available on demand through our podcast platforms. All right. So we'll be live at some point Friday. Stay tuned for when that will happen, when that will occur. And then, of course, this Saturday, it is the Citrus Bowl. We expect this game to happen. No reason at this point to think it won't. Iowa, Kentucky at noon Central Time. It will be televised on ABC. So if you're a Mediacom customer, be sure to get some bunny ears, because you're not going to be able to watch it on ABC because they ain't coming to no agreement by Saturday with Tegna. Again, we'll be with you for Iowa postgame with Coach Don Patterson over at the Voice of College Football. Iowa at the Voice of College Football following the Citrus Bowl. So be sure to be with us then. Give us a call, chat with us, and we'll hang out for the final post-game show of the year, folks. Not the final show. Well, actually, it's actually this is the final post-game show of the year, right? Because that's the new year. But the final post-game show of the season will be on Saturday after the Citrus Bowl. And, of course, we'll be with you throughout the basketball season right here on this channel. And then, of course, on Monday, we mentioned it, Iowa and Maryland from Carver. So if you can make it, be great. Certainly, I know Fran and the crew would appreciate that, and it would certainly help Iowa perform well, I would have to think. But we'll be with you following that game I'm going to throw, if I can find the banner here. Hopefully. What did I do with it? All right, here it is. Iowa, Maryland. Excuse me for that. Monday, the 3rd at 8 p.m. on BTN. And then, of course, we'll be with you following that game for Iowa postgame with Coach Gary Close. Appreciate the support, everybody. Thanks for hanging out this evening for a couple hours. We'll talk to you Friday, Saturday, and on Monday. As always, go Hawks.